Welcome to our first official podcast. This is Jimin.
And I'm Jihye.
Today, on our first episode, as we mentioned last time, we've got some topics to talk about. As a 40-plus-year-old, or as a mom, or something, just as we get older as women, how do we make friends? The reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I recently had a post about it. You know, when I just post like monologues and I just put it onto the abyss. But actually, a lot of people DM me and they were like, this is something I think about a lot as a mom. It feels sometimes like a sacrifice to go out and lose time with my kids to work on friendships. So I think there's a little bit of guilt, but I think also sometimes it's an excuse, or like maybe we just don't know how to begin. Yeah, that's what we'll talk about today. So what are your thoughts? Like, how do you make friends? What is your take on friendship?
The first thing is that it's always been a priority of mine. I know family is important, but friends have always been very important. And so I've always prioritized friendships. But because I've moved around so much, I realized that in order to do friendship, I had to be the pursuer. And I'm not going to lie, I naturally am a pursuer. So it doesn't come hard to me. But at the same time, there's still insecurities that are around pursuing somebody that might reject me.
So I think the idea of pursuing a friend might feel uncomfortable for some people, or it might feel very new. At least for me, you think about the act of pursuing in terms of the dating world. I'm like, oh, he needs to pursue me, like things like that. But it is something that I've been learning more recently in our lingo. You like somebody's vibe, you want to be friends with her, you feel like you could get along with her. It ain't gonna just come naturally. Sometimes we wait for that moment or for that connection to just like magically happen. But I think there's an actual act of reaching out and being like, hey, do you want to meet up? And not always doing it in this group context,
Right.
but yeah, like 101. So, right? So that's what you're talking about, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
I guess I wonder, why do you think a lot of people in our situation, like similar life stage, age, whatever, why do you think it's such a struggle for people to make meaningful friendships? It seems like it's something that everybody wants, but it's something that is actually really hard to get.
I think there's a multiple reasons. One of being we're busy, your husband, your kids. I think that's one of the reasons why people don't pursue. Second, I think that people give up at a certain point, or they're really comfortable with who they already have in their life as friends. So why pursue more friends when you have what you need? But I really think the biggest reason though is it's not a priority. Like it's just something that they want, but it's never something you need. When you start prioritizing your family and for good reasons, you just don't have enough time for others.
I think I'm kind of on that boat where I've always said I wanted friendships. Like I've always been like, "Oh, John, I wish I had more deeper friendships or people that I really click with and all that." And I think this is something that I referred to a little bit on a recent post, is that in my 20s, yes, I made very good friends, meaningful friendships, but it was really about like widening your network. It wasn't about finding like lifelong friends, even if that's a nice bonus. It was everybody was a friend. And within that, whoever clicks, you just hang more and you're not hungry to search for like some soulmate friendship, but it's like just chemiso, right? And I think for especially us in our 30s, when we had a lot of kids, a lot of kids were had, right? So I think part of it is like a shock to my body. Like my body didn't feel like my own. I just felt like I was just either pregnant or breastfeeding. And I feel like 10 years just flew by in my 30s raising little babies, right? Which we're grateful for, of course, but that was a priority. Now that I'm in my 40s, the kids are a little easier. I'm kind of like, in a way, claiming my time, my body, my space, my schedule back. I'm grateful that my marriage, the foundation is strong. There's a deeper understanding. There's a better partnership. So I think now I'm like, okay, can I pursue that now? I think one thing people might be surprised to hear is that she and I actually only met like 3 years ago. And so we were 38 going on 39. And she has had a lot of great friends. around her circle and as I have. But I think for me, my friendships were not as deeply rooted because I think I've never been like a pursuer. Whoever's in my life stage, whoever's in my vicinity, whoever's sharing the same space, I make the best of it. But I've never been really good at staying in touch with people once I'm physically away. But I think that's something you've always done. Right. So, and like, I think another thing is a lot of people are like, I would make friends or I would look for deep friendships. Oh, but my best friend or my favorite person is really far. So too bad. But it's like, well, you can actually still work on like long distance friendships, but it just takes a lot of work. A lot of work.
For me, it's always been worth it. And any relationship, the deeper it is, the harder I think it is because there's going to be a lot more deep rooted things that are going to come out. And people don't like resolving conflict. So they'd rather run away from the friendship and say this is not worth it than to actually be like, let's push through. And that's why I think a lot of deeper friendships don't actually exist nowadays. But again, I always come back to it's definitely worth it. Yeah. Because there's something that fulfills me and brings me so much joy that not my kids, not my husband, nobody can fill. It's a very special place for me.
I agree. I think one thing is with people saying, I may not need it or they give up or kind of along those lines, I do want to add, and this kind of enters the conversation of is your spouse, is your partner your best friend?
Mm.
For me, it always has been, right? So we've talked about this because I think for me, like even in my vows with John, it was like, you're my best friend and da 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 da. And John is my best friend. But I think that I've realized that, like, yes, he's my best friend, but I think there's something that like a girlfriend could really fill and be there for me. And I think as women, we are naturally connectors. And while I could share so much with John, I think there's a different type of fun, a different type of connection, a different type of support that a girlfriend, like a sister, could really bring. And I think that's something I've been kind of realizing and learning how to balance. It doesn't mean that one replaces the other. It's understanding, acknowledging that this is a new thing for me to really take time and intentionally work on friendship, like go on a girl trip. I had never gone on a girls trip until 3 years ago. You've been going on girls trips your entire life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know? So if you're more like Jihye, you might relate to her. If you're more like me, where you've kind of focused in your family life and husband, that's okay.
Yeah.
But if you've always felt a little bit like me, like there's a little void, or you wish you could make deeper friendships within the circle of friends or within the people that you know, I just want to give you hope that you could still do it, but it's going to take work. And it ain't just going to come like naturally to you. You have to pursue. You have to be like, hey, you want to hang out 101? Hey, like, what's your story? It's a little awkward. It's almost like going on first dates, but you have to put yourself out there and really work on that and see if it reciprocates, right? So I wanted to add that. Anyway, so I think that pretty much wraps up our episode of talking about friendship and introducing a little bit of our friendship. Of course, there's so much more to talk about. So if you guys have questions, comments, send us a DM and we will talk about it. Bye!